Because here's the thing, you work so hard to get somebody to invest in you. And I'll tell you what, anyone that starts with 50 or 100,000 has 500 grand behind that. They're not going to hand you the whole 500 grand at first. Okay. So they're going to be, it's so hard for you to get people in the beginning. They're going to be your mouthpiece. They're going to be your marketing piece.
Welcome to the Real Estate Riches Podcast, your source for real estate investment education. Each week, we'll feature an interview with a successful investor who will share their story to help us better understand the business of real estate investing. And now, here's your host, Gabe Da Silva.
So, but yeah, I've been in the business now almost 30 years. I think I've done what almost everybody's done in this business. I started wholesaling. Actually, no, I started off as a rental. Then I figured out wholesaling. I like that quick buck. I was doing a ton of fix and flips, bought land deals, multifamily deals, hotel deals, rentals. Got into the note business about 17 years ago, cut my teeth in the second note space, and then really quick jumped over about 11 years ago into the first. My whole goal, everything I do now is based around passive income. I am not transactional at all. Every time I do a transactional deal, I screw it up. I stress myself out. I hate it. I'm in the middle of a flip right now. It's supposed to close this month. I'll put it out there. I'll show how much money I saved myself from losing, because I definitely lost money. The gray hairs, I didn't save myself from that. And I hated it. And even if I made money, I still would have hated it. It's very transactional. It doesn't do anything for my life. I'm not, as crazy as it sounds, and I'm very careful about saying this. I just got off a call with somebody at a level where we're at in a mastermind, and we had this call. It was like, I'm very careful about what I say to certain people, because I don't want them to think we're pompous. I don't want them to think, oh, poor you. I said, one of my biggest problems now is, I've hit my goal a long time ago, and I've exceeded my goal in passive income. And it's a problem because I'm to the point where what do I do with myself? I'm bored. Real estate is not fun. It's not fun for me. I said I wanted to create enough passive income that I could do what I want, when I want, anytime I want. And I hit that a few years ago. And now I've exceeded it by way past at least 1.5 times of what I expected. So when I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm bored. I want to do something, but I don't want to just do something to do something, right? So I got into coaching a long time ago. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed coaching a certain type of person. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, I continually raise money. I've raised $30 million in new money and used it in over $200 million in velocity. Right now, we're way exceeded. We're close to probably 3,000 transactions we've done. And how do we do that? It's not one at a time. We don't do onesies and twosies. We spend a lot of time building relationship with asset managers. I think I talk about a lot of that in my book and in my trainings. Build relationships with asset managers where you're not buying one deal, you're buying hundreds of deals at a time. So we have to raise money for that. We can't go out. We can't use hard money for that stuff. We can't go to banks and get bank money for that stuff. So we raise private money, and we'll take down pools of assets. It'll be, $500,000 to $2 million at a time. And that's all done with private money. So that's why private money is so important. And what we're seeing now, currently it's 2020. I don't know when people listen to this. But if they listen to us in a couple of years, this is during the pandemic, the summer of the pandemic, the corona pandemic. I should call it the plan-demic. But anyway, won't get into that. But there's going to be I think right before we get on here, we talked a little bit, there's going to be a bloodbath of properties out there. I just posted something on my page today. And the numbers are right now, there's 4.6 million mortgages in default right now and climbing. 4.6 million right now. And this is during a time when we have, the SBA loans, the PPP loans, everyone's getting this extra $600 on unemployment. Then it's going to go to $400 extra. So people are still feeling rich. I'll tell you why. I was looking for a new boat, and I probably shouldn't even, because I talk about not buying things anymore, but I was looking for a new boat. I can't find the boat. My wife was looking for a bicycle. We're riding on me. She can't find the bicycle. We go to all stores. No bikes available. No boats available. No jet skis available. We went to the store. We tried to look for a navigation system for my friend's boat. They're gone. There's nothing available. People are spending like crazy, and they're not paying their mortgages. They're not paying their rent, and it's going to end. Eventually, it's going to end. I don't know when it's going to end. Yeah. Sometime this year, it's going to end, whether it's before the election, after the election, but it's got to end. So
we don't know. So we don't have a crystal ball, and nobody knows when, but we know it's coming. Like we were talking about before we hit record.
Right.
where you are in your journey is where a lot of us and a lot of the listeners are looking to go. That's the evolution, starting with either a wholesale or fix and flip or whatever the case is. And that progression ultimately being the bank or doing these big asset manager style transactions, buying tapes of loans, notes, things like that. So let's not go all the way back in the origin story, but let's go back to the point where you came to the realization that to tick the needle, to do the bigger stuff, you're going to have to raise private money at scale, as opposed to going the friends and family route, say like you might have when you started. That's how I started. A lot of these listeners might have started that way. So knowing that and having that 10 to 20 years to look back on, what would you say was the key to that mindset shift and then to first start getting traction with the raising private money at scale?
That's a great question because I talk about that a lot. I can tell you exactly when it happened. I can tell you what I had going on. It was back in 2009. I had fix and flips, right? I had 3 fix and flips. I was in contract to close. I was closing out the deal. I was the seller. I had 3 of them at the time. I also had 8 I was in contract on. At that time, banks pulled out of lending. Those 3 fix and flips didn't close. The 8, I had down payments down on every single one of them. Okay, I have security, down payment money on every one of them. My hard money lender at that time pulled out at that time. So now I was sitting there with 11 deals total. 3 that I was selling, 8 I was purchasing. I lost money on every one of them. It took me from 2000, right before 2009 until 2000, almost 13, that I had to take those 3 properties back. I had to rent them out. I was losing $400 to $600 per property per month for all those years. Okay. Then I finally, back in almost 2013, I sold them. But after 2009, I told my wife, I said, I don't have a business. I said, I am controlled. I'm just an employee. I'm controlled by the banks. I'm controlled by hard money lenders. I can't do anything. They make the decisions for me. I said, I swear to God, I swear to you, I will never base my business ever again on a bank or a hard money lender. That was back in 2009. At that point, I figured out how I'm going to go out and get money. And before then, it was begging people for money. I didn't have friends and family that, even back in the day, $50,000 was the most I ever got from friends and family. It was basically begging for money. I bought in houses with credit cards. I don't recommend doing that. I did what it took. But back in 2009, I decided at that point, I have to build a business. I have to go out and have my own private lenders. I have to have people that value my business, that see what I've done. Because back at that time, I've already done a ton of deals. Nobody knew about it. I wasn't putting it out there. So what I did is I put together presentations. I started doing meet and greets with people. I started getting personal with people. I started being intentional about who I spoke to. The difference between me and I'm going to say almost everybody out there, is when I go to these RIA events and I go to these meetup groups and I go to all those, investor-based events, I never raise private money. Never. I don't even talk about raising private money. No interest in their money. And when I speak on stage, I have people come up all the time and say, how do I fund your deals? And I'm like, I'm just not taking money from you guys right now. And people are flabbergasted that I won't take their money. And it's because when I raise money at 6, 7, 8%, no, interest only, no points, 3 to 5 years. People have been with me now for almost 20 years with money. I pay them back. They put it back into play. And I don't even have to pay. If I didn't want to pay them back, they would just let the money stay there. But legality, when the deal closes out, I have to pay them back. So that's really what I do. So I raise money I don't raise money from the murky waters that everybody else does. And so I started off with, I put together a bio about myself. Like, think about it as a business plan. Nobody ever comes to anybody with a business. I get asked all the time for money, right, to fund people's deals. And I'm lucky if I get the address. Nobody comes to me with a business plan. So a couple of things I give the listeners here is put together like a bio about yourself. And I have my bio and I teach it to my students too. I give them my bio and I go over and make sure it's perfected. Put a bio together about yourself, who you are, what you do, who's on your team. Don't be scared to tell people who's on your team. That's the biggest thing. It's a scarcity mindset. Because if I'm investing in you, I want to make sure that if Gabe, something happens to you, that who's going to take this deal to fruition. Okay, so who's on your team? Then talk about some of the deals you've done, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, and then from there, do events. Go after and focus on going after people, the right type of people. Who do you want to fund your deals? Who's your avatar? Just like me, who's my students? Who do I want to be as my student? I don't want to work with everybody. I want to work with somebody with a certain mindset, right? who's your avatar of an investor? You want somebody who's going to give you the last 100,000, and God forbid you lose their money, you wreck them, you destroy their lives? Or do you want somebody who runs a business, is a professional, understands the game, and is great with you? They're not going to micromanage you. They're happy with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, whatever it might be. Okay. They don't want to make 20, 30% of the money because they understand that that's a big risk you're not willing to take. Okay. And then always, whatever you have to do, you pay your investor back first. Because I see it happen so many times. I've been involved in deals where people are on social media talking about how great they're doing, and they haven't paid me back yet. There's a lot of people. Believe me, there's a lot of people. Facebook, we call it fake book. A friend of mine, Matt, and I call it fake book. You could be whoever you want to be on that deal. So, because here's the thing, you work so hard to get somebody to invest with you, and I'll tell you what, anyone that starts with 50 or 100,000 has 500 grand behind that. They're not going to hand you the whole 500 grand at first. Okay. So they're going to be, it's so hard for you to get people in the beginning. They're going to be your mouthpiece. They're going to be your marketing piece, because everybody wants to be the hero syndrome, right? They're at a party. They want to tell people, hey, somebody's like, my financial advisor made me 6% this year. Well, I got this guy, he's made me 10%. They're like, no, that's a Ponzi scheme. Well, I don't know what it is, but I keep getting checks. and they want to talk about you. And then it's like, you get a call and you get, Gabe, can you talk to Mary? She's interested. She has some money. She's retiring. She has a 401k. And don't ask for money. Show the opportunity and provide content. Like I talk to my students all the time about it. Teach people, right? Teach people how to pay your kids. If you learn how to pay your kids, now that money goes into a Roth IRA or a Coverdell account, right? What are they going to do with the money? They got to put it somewhere. So if you taught them, you're the expert, and I want to invest with you. Teach people how to, business owners, why not get involved with all the business owners in your local community, which is very easy to do, and teach them about solo 401ks. And all you have to be is the connector. Bring somebody from a custodian, bring a company in, and let them talk about solo 401ks for business owners. Bring a CPA in, talk about the tax benefits of the solo 401k. Why a business owner should have a solo 401k if they don't have other employees. If they have other employees, maybe they'll talk about SEPs or KIOs. But bring them in, make them understand, and you could do these as meetings. And I keep my meetings no more than 8 people. I keep them to 8 people or less because I want to keep it personal. Okay? I never raise money on the first meeting. I always have a 30 to 45 day period with them. You have to.
Is that because they're accredited, or is that your approach across the board?
It doesn't matter what it is, accredited or not accredited. You still want to. If it's accredited, you really don't need that. But you want to have that 30 to 45 day, and I write it down. You want, if the SEC ever comes looking, you want to say I've met with them 30, 45 days. You don't, because it depends. It depends on the syndication you form. There are syndications of 506B or C. You can actually raise money day one. You can talk to them day one. That's not what I'm doing. And a lot of people here aren't doing syndications. They're raising money for single deals.
Yeah, one-off.
So your first meeting is, hey, this is what I do. These are the type of deals I do. You don't ask for money. And you have a follow-up meeting with them. Now you do it one-on-one. Now you meet with that person one-on-one, and you find out what their risk level is, how much money they're looking to invest, where is it coming from, do they need the money monthly, annually, quarterly, at the end. Okay? You still don't ask them for money at that point. Now you know everything they have, everything they're looking for, what their comfort level is, what they want to do. Now your third time you meet with them, you say, I have this deal. This is a deal that fits your needs. If you want in, I'll let you be in on this deal. And I document all of that. And then you make sure you pay them back. Here's a little trick I do. The first, at least, even if I'm going to ACH them money, the first 3 payments, as cumbersome as it sounds, write out the check. And I put a little note on and send it to them, because ACH money comes to their account, they look at it, it's cool. But when they get that check in the mail and they hold in a physical check in the mail, they're going to start talking about how great you are. They're going to tell their wife, see, I told you this guy pays back. See, I told you it was real. And just take care of them. The biggest thing is always take care of your lenders first before you take care of yourself.
There's so much in there to unpack. So there's a common theme across how you present yourself. And I've been taking notes as you're going, right? So I extracted from what you said about tell people about your team, share your track record, host events, teach, all that, positioning yourself as an authority, becoming believable, people grow to know, like, and trust you. Then you don't ask for the money. Then you have 3 separate opportunities to meet with them, dialogue with them, and you outlined what we should even say on those calls or at those meetings, like gold nugget, right? So if you guys are listening, this is the stuff you need to go back, rewind, take notes. Like, he was very descriptive about what you need to be doing. So, and then we go into the raising private money, the syndication model versus the one-off deal model. And you said something early before you kind of broke that down for us about 3 and 5 year holds. And then how are you positioning that? Because I know in the accredited investor world, they come with the expectation that their monies won't be available to them for prolonged periods of time. In the friends and family world, and I know this is not an absolute, but this has been my experience in the friends and family world and in the one-off kind of deal fundraising model, they expect the 12-month terms. Can you talk about the terms a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I always talk about, and I use this all the time, this is my program. This is not their program. So and I tell them, I might not be the right fit for you. You know, if you're somebody that needs all your money back within the first 12 months, I'm not the right fit, because what will happen is it'll get me investing into deals that I'm not comfortable investing into. I like investing into, what I do is I raise capital. I buy pools of assets, whether it's REOs or non-performing notes. It could take me 12 to 18 months just to get those assets back into my possession, right? Going through foreclosure, going through eviction. I get those, I rehab them, I rent them. I either hold them in my portfolio or I sell them on seller financing, so I create a note. So that could take me 12 to 18 months. I'm not going to start doing deals and put myself in a situation just to pay your money back. I might not be the right fit for you. The best deals are the ones you don't take, right? The best lenders are the ones you don't take. And you have to be cool telling somebody, I don't need your money right now. And you might think I'm pompous for saying it, but I just don't need your money right now. I'd rather not do the deal than take your money and not service you the right way. Because I'm a steward. First thing I am is I'm a steward to everybody's money, right? They work hard for it. It's their retirement. I mean, I see people losing people's money. I watched the other day, what's that show? Greed. What was that? Greed? American Greed. And there was a guy on there raising money for real estate. And my friends down in Florida hit me up and they said, I know this family. And I'm like, he's literally doing events like I do. I mean, he's doing big events. He's doing events like I do. He's raising money. He's promising them 8%, and he can't pay them back their 8%. I'm like, because he's using it for, it's a Ponzi scheme what he's doing. He's making us look bad. But you have to be a steward to people's money. If you are, I tell people this, I only have 42 lenders in my portfolio. That's it, 42. I don't have hundreds. There's people with hundreds. And out of 42, maybe I use 8 or 9 because I don't need that much money. So when I know who I'm working with, but if you have one lender and that's all you're working with, then you're kind of stuck. You have to be able to portray, this is your program. This is what you do. Okay. You don't work with everybody. You work with a select few. This is what you expect from the people you work with. Now it's different. If people want to be paid back quarterly, I mean, it depends on the deal you do. On a fix and flipper, some people want it, when I lend money, I want to be paid monthly. When I work with people, because the problem is if people don't pay, I learned this over time. If you work with a fix and flipper and they're not paying you back monthly, sometimes they're not really interested in closing that deal out that fast. They're like, I'll take care of the other one first. So I also want people to have skin in the game. So when I borrow money, a lot of times I borrow everything. I don't need any money up front. But in the beginning, I put skin in the game to make people feel comfortable with me. Okay. I also talk to, I don't know if they can see this, if this is going to be on video. I have a little brochure. I have a brochure like this that I give to my potential private lenders, right? And it's all, think about this, right? You can make it up yourself. It's basically a frequently asked questions, okay? Brochure that I give to them. So all the questions that they should ask are in here. So like, what happens if you die? Like I ask that to people all the time and I said, listen, it's going to get a little weird in here, but I'm going to ask you this, Gabe. What happens when you get hit by a truck? And I say, I hate to say it, but what happens? What happens when you get divorced? And you have to be ready to answer those questions. And if they're not asking those questions, you want to say it to them. You want to tell them, like, what happens? Listen, I thought about everything. God forbid something happens to me. I want to make sure your money's protected. God forbid I go through a divorce. I want to make sure your money's protected. God forbid there's a fire. I want to make sure your money's protected. And if you show your lenders that you're looking out for them before yourself, they're going to love you. They're going to love you because there's a couple of things they care about, right? The last thing they care about is how much money they make. Most lenders care about how much money they make. That's the last thing, believe it or not. They want to know who you are, because I always talk about bet on the jockey, not the horse, and they want to be sure that their money's protected. Then the last thing they really care about is how much they're making. As crazy as it sounds, everyone else thinks it's the other way around. It's not. The true lenders will I can tell you, because there's some people that I have lending me money, and they said, what do you know about this guy? He just offered me 12% on this deal. And I'm like, just do your due diligence. It's up to them. I'm not going to say good or bad. Do your due diligence.
Yeah, I think that's for the people listening that are looking to borrow and looking to establish relationships with lenders. You also don't want the lending partner, the private money lender, who's solely focused on what his return's going to be. He's trying to squeeze you for 3 points and 12% or whatever those numbers are. Like it's crazy, but that's when you get started and you don't know any better. Hopefully we're helping people avoid these landmines by listening to this. Like, you'll do a bad deal with a bad lender whose sole focus is on squeezing you. There's lenders that are out there hoping you fall behind, looking for opportunities to take the property out from under you. So as much as they're interviewing you, be interviewing them, be telling them about who you are, your model, and that like they're working into your model. And like the thing about not taking on people's money because it doesn't fit your model is huge, because it could possibly force you to make the wrong kinds of investment decisions. That's big. I mean, a lot of times guys early on will take money from wherever they can get it, and then they're forced to deploy. They're forced to do things they otherwise wouldn't. So I love that concept. So that was really powerful. Want to talk about, on that same topic, about deployment and like the rate at which you feel, I don't want to say obligated to deploy, but we've heard stories of guys who borrow too much and then have to put it to work because they feel the pressure of paying, say, the 10% on the pool. They raised $3 million and it's starting, that monthly nut is starting to get to them. So they start deploying haphazardly. Can you caution us a little bit on that?
Yeah. When you said it, now you're talking about syndications, right? So when you're talking about syndications, I've done 3 syndications. I'm not a big fan of them unless I'm raising a ton of money and I need it for a big pool. But when you do them, you could set them up now, because the first one I learned my lesson. It cost me about $80,000 in interest in the first year, because I took all the money in and I had to start paying on it before I closed on a deal. So what you want to do is you just want to get commitments from people. You don't want to take their money up front. Knowing that, just understand, when knowing that, people will commit to, okay, I'm gonna give you $100,000, or I'm gonna give you $500,000 or $1 million. They might not come through. You always want to get more commitments than you need.
Yeah,
always. It's okay to tell people, sorry, once you ask for the money, sorry, this fund is closed out. Maybe next time take my class on taking action. Something like that. But you have to treat it like a business. Then you could also set up your fund. The last one I did said 90 days. We took the money in and we didn't make our first, payments didn't start for 90 days. And I explained to them why, and they understood. So their first year, they might have made a little bit less than normal. But we did that because we needed to have all the money in place so we could actually close. The way that the note, that pool worked, we had to have the funds in place. And then we did our due diligence on it, and then we were able to close. So they understood, and these are people we had a relationship with. So that's what I would do, is I would just take commitments. I wouldn't take the money if you're starting out in syndication. And once you need the money, and ask for the money, but always get more commitments than you need. Because it'll happen to me too. Even now, I'll have people that say, hey, listen, I have money for you. And then when I go back to them, they don't have money for me. Right now, I'll be honest, I'm in the same situation. I have calls since the coronavirus started. I've been having calls constantly with my lenders, my private lenders. And their biggest thing for me is, hey, do we have any deals for my money? My money's sitting. Yeah. And I'm like, well, just right now, I'm just not going to jump into a deal. I mean, I do deals here and there now, but I'm not going to jump into a deal like I did before, because it's just people are bidding crazy amounts of money. And I'm not going to take that risk, even though everything's a risk, right? I can't guarantee anything on their money. The only thing it guarantees is how we mitigate the risk. But I'm just not going to jump into a deal just to get into a deal because they want their money at work. And now I'm putting myself at risk, and I'm putting stress on myself just to get their money at work. Now, if they're not comfortable with holding on to their money right now, well, then let them give it out to somebody else, and then that doesn't affect me at all. I mean, I can still sleep at night Because the one thing that keeps me up, the one thing is until my lenders are paid back, I always have a little bit of stress on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's very telling that we're sitting here, both of us having had conversations just this week with lenders looking to deploy and us not ready and willing to take it because we're not that we're not confident in the opportunities, but we don't have the opportunities that warrant taking their monies. So, and for those of you that are listening to this during this time period, because this will be available later, and you might be listening to this after things hit the shit and come back. But if you're listening to this now, be conscious of that. Something else that you said that is huge is being oversubscribed. Like we subscribe to the 3 times oversubscribed rule. If I need $1 million, I'm raising 3 because I know 2 are going to fade. One likely will have deployed somewhere else. The other one will not have asked the second decision-making partner in the house. And the other of the third will be there for you if you need it. So I don't know if you subscribe to that rule or something like it, but always.
I don't use those numbers, but I like it. I just always oversubscribe. I don't stop.
Yeah. How can we count on something that we don't have control over?
Right. Right.
I love that.
I just keep going. I don't have a 3 to 1, but I like that.
Yeah.
And if I look back, it probably is about 3 to 1.
Right. A third doesn't ask their partner, and a third goes and spends it somewhere else, and the third that you were counting on shows up. And
you just said that, but here's what's so important, right? It's so hard to get somebody to commit, right, and actually fund. And the one third that doesn't ask their partner. Can you imagine if you, once they do invest with you, if you do everything you say you're going to do, you do it even better? You think that they're going to have to ask their partner ever again? That's what gets me is people try so hard to raise money. They do it. First of all, they do it all the wrong way, right? They actually do it illegally, right? And then they don't pay back when they say they're going to pay back, or they don't do what they say they're going to do. And then you look online and you see they're out there, either talking about how great they're doing or spending money on frivolous items, but they're not paying you back when they said they're going to pay you back, right? Yeah. And here's the thing. Problems can come up in your business. That's not my problem. As a lender, it's not my problem. Okay? Just think about that. The lender does not care about your business. They just don't. They care about their money. That's what they care about. You need to get it back to them. So you need to have a way to get that money back to them, or don't borrow it. That's just the bottom line. That's just the bottom line. And if you do that, I'll tell you, you're going to have the problem that we're talking about right now, Gabe, is our lenders calling us up saying, I have money. How do we deploy it? Not the other way around. And I don't think people believe me when I tell them that. I'm saying your biggest problem is going to be good quality deal flow. It's not going to be money. In the beginning, it sounds like money, but that's not going to be a problem after a good 6 months to a year of taking care of your lenders.
Yeah, that was always a challenge early on at the networking events. When I was first getting started, same thing. I was of the belief that raising money for deals was the challenge. And people that had been in the game longer said that is not the paradigm. Like that, it was shift. I promise you. Right now, you think you can find deals, but you can't find money. You'll soon realize that the money is there if you find the deals. And that for sure happened. I don't know when in my journey that took place, maybe in like year 2 or somewhere between year 2 and 3, it probably happened for me. And I quickly realized, and then a lot of those guys that have been in the game a lot longer than me, who are still out there doing things, I've gone back to them and said, you were absolutely right. Like that's exactly how it happens. So depending on where you guys are in your journey, listening to this, just be mindful of the fact that like, this is how it works. It's no coincidence that the 2 of us are here telling you this and that others have told us this for a long, long time. Another tip you dropped too about the constant conversation piece that we put into a format that makes it measurable. Be curious to hear your thoughts on this is tracking, because I recall you said earlier on that you do keep track of the conversations you have and with whom and on what dates. So I, as the visionary in my organization, have on my scorecard, one of my metrics, one of my KPIs is I have to have 2 relevant lender conversations each week. So 2 new lenders. So is that something, I know you might not subscribe to like a KPI that you report on or something, but what are your thoughts on how frequently people should be reaching out? Or I know you talked about a strategy for that. Can you expand on it a little bit?
Oh yeah, it depends where you are in your career. Like right now, I've reached out to my 42 lenders. Actually, a couple of times I've probably spoken to them. When it first happened, when this whole pandemic first happened, I had at the time I still had their money and some of their money in deals. So I communicated with them, right? Biggest thing I communicated, this is what we're doing. This is how we're taking care of it. If the crap hits the fan, this is how we're going to pay you back. Kept them feeling comfortable. And then I asked them how they're doing. How's their family? Where's their money? Are they okay? Are they working? Because you want to know if they're not working, how do you help them out? How do you be a human being? And also maybe they can't lend you the money anymore if they're not working, right? Maybe they need that money for themselves. So you always want to have, just your finger on the pulse of what's going on with your lenders. But yeah, I do that very much so with asset managers. I made sure that I had hit at least 4 to 5 assets, and I actually put it on my calendar. The way I was doing it, I was calling asset managers. I actually had it on my calendar. Call a certain amount a day. I called lenders a certain amount a week. I called people in the industry that I work with 3 times a week. So I had that scorecard on my calendar too. Now it's a little different. I don't do that as much anymore. But if you're getting started, 100% you should be doing that. Okay, because otherwise you're floundering. You want to be consistent. And here's the thing. And when this corona first hit in March and we were all home, and banks started pulling out of deals once again. It seemed like 2008, 9 all over again. And I started getting flashbacks. And my phone was blowing up. People were buying our online training on how to raise money. People wanted me to mentor them one-on-one. And like I said, we only take 2 people every 3 months for one-on-one training on raising private money because people saw it. They heard me talking for years about raising private money, but they saw it happening to them firsthand. And this is the new regime. This happened to me back in 2008, 9. But this is the new regime for them. This is happening to them. So I told them, I said, right now is 2009 all over again. I said, and people went back in 2012 and 13, when I was in the industry, all I heard people say is, oh man, I wish it was I wish I knew this back in 2009. I wish this was 2005. I wish I'm like, raise money now, start today, because this is 2012 coming, and there is going to be a ton. I just read you right now. My asset manager showed me there's 4.6 million mortgages, not dollar amount, mortgages in default right now, and they're passing bills to not pay rent and not pay mortgages. What do you think is going to happen? Eventually, it's going to open up, and people are going to be. It's going to be devastation out there. I hate to say it. I don't enjoy saying it because I don't want to see anyone get hurt. But the facts are the facts. Okay. If you do not have private money, like I didn't have back in 2009, you will not be able to buy anything. There was multifamilies coming across my desk at 20 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on a dollar. I was at the time I was equity rich, cash poor. I had no ability to raise money at the time. I was begging and pleading with people in 2009 for money. It's hard to get $50,000 or $100,000 from people. I couldn't close on deals. Deals were just flying by my desk. I couldn't touch them. And I swore I'm never going to let that happen again. So that's why I stay in touch with my private lenders. I know they're comfortable with me. They know that I'm going to protect them as best I possibly could. And I'm ready. I'm working hard. I've worked hard during this coronavirus to make sure that I have private money lined up. And if you're not, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're going to see the same thing happen. I'm telling you, history repeats itself. You're going to see the same thing happen to you that happened to me back in 2009, 10, 11, where I could not get my hands on private money.
This is a really powerful cautionary tale from someone who was there and lived and worked through that period. I wasn't in this space a decade plus ago, but to have had you be there and be hearing what you're saying now, it's and I've been listening to a lot of what you've been saying, and we run in a lot of the same circles with the mastermind guys, and I'm hearing them say, hey, like right now, focus on 3 things during Corona. Step up your knowledge, acquire knowledge, strengthen your relationships, and be sourcing capital. Like those last 2 in parallel, like get on the phone, strengthen those relationships, make those care calls, find out what people are up to, and be sourcing capital, be getting that money, getting those primary conversations going, getting those soft commitments, whatever you want to call them, but be ready, because you're not going to have time to get ready. Guys like us that are getting ready will be taking advantage when the time does come. Again, like you said, we don't want to see anybody get hurt. We're certainly not here hoping and wishing and praying for that. It's going to happen. The numbers dictate that it is. I think that foreclosure rate or the non-mortgage payment numbers that you're saying that you were giving us, I think it's equivalent to like 1/3 of the mortgages in the country. Mm-hmm. I might be misspeaking, but if that's the case, like think about that, like 1/3 of the mortgages in the country. And I may be wrong on that, but even still, it's ginormous proportion. So,
and this is while people are still getting unemployment checks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once that stops, what happens then?
Yeah.
Right? Well, if these small businesses close down and people don't have jobs, what happens then? Like we're just we're just touching right now. We're touching. I had my asset manager tell me, I had a call with him last week, and he said, and you need to start ramping up some money because we see on our books what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about multifamilies. I have a guy from multifamilies. He said just in multifamilies, he says we're already seeing 31% of our mortgages in deferment right now. That's a multi. He says so 2021 and 22 are going to be huge. He said they're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. They can't hold these on their books because of what happens with mortgages when they hold those on their books. They have to throw money in reserves and stuff like that. So it goes a little bit further with Fannie and Freddie. But they're telling me that. So, I mean, and then I'm watching people spend a ridiculous amount of money on assets right now to buy them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just unfortunately, it's going to crumble. It's going to crumble. I don't want to, you know, be a fearmonger out there. I don't like that. But it's just the truth. It is facts. It can't go any other way. It has to go that way. Yeah. I mean, because, you know, if people are in deferment right now, if they have no way to catch up. If mortgages are in default, they have no way to pull out of them. Problem is banks can't foreclose on people right now. But once they could, they have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is, we're not about doom and gloom. Like this is reality. This is preparing you. This is an opportunity. So look at it that way, depending on when you find this video, when this episode finds you. If it's now, like more relevant than ever. So be listening. As we kind of approach.
Bottom line is have money lined up, private money, because it's not going to be a bad thing if you have money sitting there ready to go when these deals cross your desk.
Yeah. And before we transition over, one final question, let these guys know where they can find you. I know we've talked and touched on a lot of different things and some of the courses and trainings, but let them know where they can find you for that stuff.
Well, a good, you know, free stuff. They can go right to YouTube it's actually on the Zitofsky Capital Management on my YouTube page. I'm starting to move more of my videos there because we have the Facebook page, the group. It's called Become a Real Estate Investor with Dan Zitofsky. That's a free group. Just answer 3 questions to get in. But a lot of our videos seem to get buried down after some time. So I'm really working with my marketing team to move everything over to YouTube. So if they go to Zitofsky Capital Management on YouTube, they'll find me. They could also, we can give away our free cheat. We have a free cheat sheet we can give away to them. They just go to passivewealthacademy.com/42K. So passivewealthacademy.com/42K. I wrote this. I usually give it out when I speak it on stage. Being that we're in Corona, we got it to a link now, so people can still get our free cheat sheet. Or we can grab our book, Passive to Prosperous. We got that there. So book, Passive to Prosperous, that's on Amazon. They can get that. They can learn a lot about, you know, my why, my vision, why I do what I do, why I create passive wealth, why that interests me more than transactional deals. And then I talk about how we do it, a lot of how we do it. So it's an easy read. It's Amazon's bestseller. It's actually got us a lot of speaking events for that book. So it gives a lot of information. It's a pretty good book.
So I'll link to everything in the show notes for this, and so people can find their way to your stuff. Of course, ordinarily I would finish with a parting piece of guidance for the listeners, which I think you gave us just before you answered that, which was always be raising, be relentless, just be raising, because you can never have too much money ready to go, especially with what's coming. And I actually got kind of a deeper one for you because I know you offline and I know that you're this kind of guy. So what did you used to believe about the business of real estate that you no longer believe? And you can go back 10 or 20 years because you've got the track record. So I'll leave it open to you because I want to understand what your thought process, how it's evolved over the last decade or two.
Well, a lot of it, and that's what I put in the book, Passive to Prosperous. It's my whole story. I used to think success was having things, items, right? So I've had some of the nicest cars that anyone can imagine. I have a watch collection that can choke a horse right now, boats, all that stuff. But that's not really what it came down to. So when I really figured out what my vision was and my why, what's my why? Why do I do this? And if you ask people that, once you figure out what your why is, why are you involved in real estate? Because real estate is a trinket, right? It's like selling a widget. It's like selling a pen. It's not the real estate that's exciting for most people. It's the money that they make. But what does the money do for them? They don't want to work that 9 to 5 anymore. They want to be independent. They want to have life, right? So when I was flipping 30, 40, 50 houses every year for a good 8, 9 years straight, and sometimes a lot more than that, at that time, I mean, that was retail flips. Those weren't like what I do now, a few hundred a year rentals. Those are retail flips. I was working 16 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Couldn't go on vacation. I was out to dinner on a Sunday night. My phone was ringing from contractors, realtors, appraisers, inspectors. It was a nightmare, right? So I had no life, but I was doing it to spend money, to make all that money so I could drive the nicest cars in the world, so I can have all the nicest watches. And we butt heads a lot of times. People that say, don't listen to guys like Dan that say, it's not. Well, you know what? When I'm sitting here and I just told you, this is probably my first podcast I'm doing in a couple of weeks because I'm down at the beach in the boat all the time now. And you go look at my Facebook, you see and I'm running a political campaign because I have the time to do it. My why, and you look into my vision, who am I? And my vision is I want to do what I want, when I want, anytime I want, with whom I want, right? And I can't do that flipping, being transactional, doing wholesaling, doing flipping. That I can't do that, right? So I decided at that point. So my biggest change was, if I could change anything that I did wrong, it would be to look at keeping more properties and just being transactional. Building a rental portfolio, a seller finance portfolio, I would have done that way sooner than I do it now. And I'm not unhappy with what I have now. We have a pretty large portfolio of both rentals and seller finance notes, but I would have done that way sooner rather than selling all these properties to make a couple dollars. That's the change I would have made. So and I'm not saying flipping is wrong. I'm not saying wholesaling is wrong. Just understand, why are you in this business? Why are you in this business? Because I'm in the business where no matter what, I'm going to be okay, because if I can't flip, I still have rentals. If I don't have rentals, I have seller finance notes. And if I don't, I'm so strung into those notes that if somebody doesn't pay us, we'll take that property at 30 cents on the dollar. So it's fine. So for me, it's all about passive income. Everything I do is about passive income. That's why I like to call myself the bank. Be the bank.
Yeah, that's it. That's powerful. That's why we all get into this business. Eventually, the evolution is to get to passive cash flow, the journey to passive. So thank you for that. I've been dying to ask that question. So you were the perfect guest, and that was a great opportunity to ask it. So thanks, man. I appreciate the time, and I won't keep you from the family and the boat. So go enjoy.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.
Real estate investment rock stars, congratulations on taking one more step toward real estate riches. I know that you're serious about a successful future in the real estate investment business, and the Real Estate Riches podcast is going to help you get there. Head on over to GabeDasilva.com right now and get yourself signed up for a coaching call where Gabe will help you figure out the next step on your journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Real Estate Riches podcast.